I will literally start calling on people.
Being able to meet my children and my family's needs.
What's that?
So pay the bills and take care of my children's needs.
Okay. Anybody else?
Pay off my house and travel.
Gotcha.
Yeah, pay the bills, have a flexible schedule to be with family, kind of have the lifestyle that I want.
There's a word, lifestyle, right? You want to be able to craft your own lifestyle.
Just want to fund the perfect life, I guess.
Okay. Lifestyle again, right? All right. Sharon back there. How about you?
Get this house on the market.
That's probably going to help in the pursuit of success, right?
Yeah, it's all lifestyle. It's about overcoming adversity and making sure I can do it on my own.
Who would like to do big things? Who would like to do, actually pursue wealth, pursue, when you say lifestyle, who would like to take that lifestyle up a few notches?
I think that you do like a 5, 7, 10-year plan for me that right now I'm sustaining, but
Yes.
my 7-year plan is what you're talking about.
Good.
Yeah.
And I like to hear that. I think we get really tense. Maybe it's just a Minnesota thing. We get really tense when we start talking about success and wealth building and we start feeling somehow guilty that makes us, not good people. I don't agree with that. I think everybody should have their own version of success and they should be shooting for the moon on that. And if you're not shooting at the moon, you're at least not hitting the street light. If you shoot for the street light, you're not gonna even hit that. You got to overshoot. The ugly truth of success looks like this. You are going to define your own success. Whatever you think that is, you're going to struggle to hit that mark. And if you shoot too low, guess where you're going to land?
Lower.
Yeah. You are going to land lower. So define what success looks like. Is it a certain GCI? Is it if I make X amount of dollars, I can craft that lifestyle? But what if that lifestyle that you craft requires you to work 18-hour days to fulfill getting the GCI to craft the lifestyle? Does that look like success? No. Everybody name one person that's successful that you can think of. And I don't have to know who they are, but tell me why you think they're successful. One person. Logan, you might know somebody. How about one person?
You want their name?
Yeah. Tell me what their name is and what they do and why they're successful.
My friend Tim Madden, he owns big CEO of Dunbar.
Okay.
Yeah, this
Gotcha.
pretty big company. He owns they have like over 900 locations of like homes that do like CNA care for people and
Nice.
in-home care, things like that. That's how he grew his success, was helping others. Very humble person. You never know that he's a millionaire or anything, but he is.
But to you, that you look at that and you say that's successful.
Yeah, very
Yes.
successful, humble. His family's all very well off with what they do.
Nice.
Very successful in their own things too, schooling, things like that.
Gotcha.
I think pretty solid, I guess.
Gotcha.
Without success.
Who's next? Everyone knows someone that's successful.
No, that's landlord.
Okay. What made them successful?
He found the perfect fit. He's an engineer. He found the perfect fit for a company that allows him to work around his family. It's a small family-oriented company in Anoka.
Gotcha.
He's allowed to, he has his demands, but he's allowed to pick and choose when he goes into work and takes care of things and works around his family needs.
So how about next? What do you got?
I know a lot of successful people.
Pick one and why are they successful?
Mostly it was their patience and their diligence on staying on track and, setting their goals and
Discipline.
making the steps to reach those goals.
And you're right, because success requires discipline. It doesn't fall off of trees. Otherwise we'd all be, right?
Right.
So tell me, how do you really measure success? If you know what your version of success is, what is your measurements of? You talked about a 5 to 7 year plan. Is benchmarks in there is how you're kind of measuring success, right? One day at a time, one success at a time. That's how you're going to measure it. Now, when I say success is ugly, here's what I mean. Those successful people and wait, we missed one. Sharon, successful person.
Successful person. Passed away, but he was also a millionaire. Got to travel as much as he wanted to, but he works a lot of hours.
Mm-hmm.
He worked a lot of days, he didn't get to see his family a lot of the time, but
that's what brought him to success,
that's
right?
what brought him money.
So let's just be honest, guys. Success equals risk. There's a reason that people will work capped incomes their whole life, because it appears to be a guarantee. I will make $60,000. Would you trade your $60 or $70 or $100,000 job to risk it all to chase real success? That is a very small amount of people in the populace that will do that. And for those that have, do you think it came easy? We all think of those successful people you mentioned. How about the times that they were bouncing checks or crying in their car because they couldn't freaking pay their bills? And that happens. I've known really successful people that has happened. Or that their spouse left them because their families are falling apart because of the pursuit of success. Success is not something that you can measure in terms of just money, but it's also sacrifice. Think about this. How many people would risk it if they knew that success was impossible without multiple layers of failure? In real estate, I watch this every day. People talk themselves out of trying things. People talk themselves out of going for it, for even picking the phone up and making a call because they don't want to feel rejected or they don't want to fail. And we're going to talk about failure in a minute. Some successful models out there. Anybody know anybody that's been successful in the multi-level marketing world? Okay. Talk about a business. They're selling something they're not even selling a product. They're selling a membership when it really comes down to it. Nobody cares about the product they're selling. Plexus or, Avon or whatever it is, or, Amway. Nobody cares about that. What they care about is, can I build enough subscriptions in a short enough amount of time that there's more cash coming into the system than that's going out. That's how they make their money. Now, when you look at success, when you look at it, that's risk. Why? Because 90% of MLMs fail in the first 2 years, 90%. And yet people will risk it all for that. 90% of people will fail in the first couple of years in real estate. Do you guys know that? 90%. And what we talked about in the successful people that and I think it was you that mentioned it, the reason they're successful is because they implement. They have discipline. They get up at a certain time every day. They have an action item list of things they will tackle, and they will do those items. In our industry, we attract those that do nothing to actually succeed in business. They react. They wait for somebody to come across their path that's willing to work with them on something, and they will send them properties and say, when you see something you like, call me. There's no implementation to that system. In real estate, we've got two things we need to do. We need to generate leads, and we need to convert those leads. And when we do that, that's where we actually become successful. That's implementation. Keep in mind that the odds are stacked against you in terms of success. If 90% of people fail, what about the other 10%? What about those 10%? Are they raving successes, or do you think they're just getting by? How do you measure success? Just because you made it past your third year, that in itself is a measure, a benchmark of success. But does that mean you've made it? Can you retire? No, most of those people are still living paycheck to paycheck. We attract people in real estate that do nothing but buy themselves a job. That's what they do, paycheck to paycheck, commission to commission. They're buying themselves a job. Others in the industry, and Lindahl is one of them, that has bought themselves an actual career and they're running a business. Their revenues are generated in different ways. The revenues are generated in different ways in such that they're able to not just rely on their own efforts, their revenues are almost self-generating at this point. That's how you run a business. To create something that's going to generate through your implementation. Success is not possible without sacrifice. It's not possible without sacrifice. I think it was Warren Buffett that said, when asked, how do you be successful? What do you attribute to that? And he said, well, here's the advice. Work half days. Work half days. Think about that for a minute. Here is the follow-up to that. Just pick the first or the second half. He didn't say work 4 hours. He said, just work half days, but it needs to be either the first or second half. What he was saying is it's an all day, all night grind. It's a lifestyle. You're never out of character. You never really are. It's always here. Okay. So being successful can also have some pretty negative and unintended consequences. When we talked about risking it all, can there be failure in there? If I could tell you how many when I say multimillionaires, I don't mean people that have a net worth of 10 or 20 million. I'm talking about that trade and sell and create $60+ million companies for fun. I can't tell you how many people I met in that arena that have blown it all. Like they've created something valuable, companies with huge net worth, and they've failed miserably right after they created it. And they turn around and they do something completely different. And they create another multi-million dollar company because they know how to do this. They know how it's done. And the thought of failure doesn't paralyze them. In our industry, we are paralyzed by the thought of failure, by the thought of rejection, by the thought of not being good enough. So I want to kind of go over some maybe misunderstood or unknown common stories that you guys should really think about. First off, here's the rule. If you're not failing, you're not trying. And if you're not failing upwards, then you're not failing correct. If you're going to fail, trip on the step, that's fine. Everybody's supposed to. How many times are you going to trip on that step though before you go to the next step and then fail there and start the process over? If you can't get past that first step, that's where you're going to plateau. You always have to be improving, always have to be thinking. So think about some common people that we know that have failed. Who knows Jim Carrey? Right. So Jim Carrey early in his career was booed off stage. He was rejected by Saturday Night Live. Did you guys know that? Rejected by Saturday Night Live, booed off stage. Look at him today. How about Katy Perry? You guys know her? Her first album sold 200 copies. 200.
That was all her friends and family.
Probably, right? She probably bought 100 of them just to make it look like something moved.
Right.
So today, she's huge, but 200 copies. How many people in the room can honestly say right now that if you came out with a product and it failed miserably day one, that you'd keep moving, keep going? Most people will stop in their tracks. You spend your first year in real estate or even your second or third or fourth year in real estate and you haven't taken off. You haven't made it happen. How many people quit on themselves? Why do they fail? They fail because they quit on themselves. They throw in the towel. Nope, can't do it. They throw in the towel. Now, there's legitimately some people that don't like the industry, and that's a different story. That's not a failure. That's a recognition of this isn't for me. But there's a lot of people that want to be successful in the industry that will give up because they don't think they can do it. So Oprah, I think you guys have probably heard of Oprah, right? Did you guys know that she was fired from TV because she was unfit for TV? Interesting story there, right?
Yeah.
Who's down with Jay-Z? You guys know Jay-Z, right? So Jay-Z was rejected by literally every record label when he was trying to come on. He was like the guy selling CDs out of his trunk, right? But he was rejected by everybody. You know what he did? He said, screw this, I'm going to form my own. And he did. So he's a self-producer? I guess that's what you call it, self-produce your own stuff or self-distribute. So that's what he did, and look at him today.
Tom Petty did the same thing.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So anybody familiar with J.K. Rowling? What piece of work did they do?
The books.
Harry Potter, right? So, and I got notes on this because I can't remember the whole story. So once being jobless, divorced, penniless, with a dependent child, rejected by everybody on the script for Harry Potter. Finally gets one small publisher to take a chance. And they release 1,000 copies. 500 of those go to libraries. One small publisher picked that up, and somehow it ended up in some sort of like I can't exactly define it, but it won some award for being a children's book. That award launched it to this next phase, which then turned it into a huge megastar, mega hit. Stephen King. We've all heard of that guy, right? We're talking about mindset, right? We're talking about failure and the ugly truth of success. These people, what they went through, put yourself there one time, not where they are today, but think about Stephen King, for example. His first work was Carrie. He was rejected over 30 times on that. How many of you guys would go, you know what, I'm going to door knock, and I got rejected 6 times, I got swore at, and I got hung up on, I'm done. 30 times. You know where that script ended up? In the garbage. His wife believed in him enough to dig that out of the garbage. I think he's probably pretty thankful about that, right?
Is he still with her?
You know, I don't know about that. He should be.
Yes.
So to this day, they've sold over 350 million copies of his work. He threw in the trash. Think about that.
So a support group is very important when you're trying to build yourself up.
And that's exactly what I want you guys to consider here, is you all are going through the same struggles. But to be successful, you have to have a couple different components. You have to know where you want to go. You got to be able to define what that success looks like. You got to know and accept the failures and the sacrifices that it's going to take to get there. And you got to keep pushing forward and implementing anyway. If you're emotionally married to the outcome of everything you do, you will just quit. That's just a reality. It's hard. Like I said, that person crying in their car because they're getting the second notice on their bills and they can't pay it. And they've got kids to feed and they don't know how to do that at the moment. That's a reality. It happens. Or that person that's filing for their not first but second bankruptcy. I've had those conversations with people in the industry. You have to consider that if you truly want to be successful and have the lifestyle, as I'm hearing in here, that you really want. It's going to take some trial and error, and you're going to keep on recrafting it and reinventing it until it works. Bill Gates failed at his first tech company. Imagine that.
Yeah, and he was like 12.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that article. He was a kid.
You're not going to do all this.
But here's the reality. That first failure set him up for the venture that got him into Microsoft. He used that for that purpose. How many people, my favorite one of these stories is the Sylvester Stallone story. How many people know that story? No?
When he brought his
So
dog
his
back.
dog or something.
So what happened was, again, penniless, home, like literally sleeping on benches. He ended up doing, and I think this is where the name Italian Stallion came from. He ended up doing an actual soft porn movie for $200 a day because it was either that or he was going to be homeless. So he wrote the script for Rocky after going to, and I've seen the actual fight, Chuck Wepner versus Muhammad Ali. Chuck Wepner was a guy that never should have been in the ring with Muhammad Ali. And yet he went the rounds. And it inspired Sylvester Stallone so much. He said, there's a story here. I'm going to write that story. But here's why I love this story. He was offered, I think, $30,000 or $35,000 to sell that story. No, it was over $100,000. He was offered over $100,000.
It was up to over 200, I thought.
Eventually, but the first offer came in like 105 or 10 or something like that. And you know what he said? No, unless I can star in it. And he wouldn't budge. And during this time, he was so poor that he even had to sell his dog. Okay, his dog. He sold his dog. After rounds of negotiations back and forth with the directors and the producers, finally they had struck a deal, and they paid him $35,000 as a starring role. He didn't care about the money. He cared about being in the movie. He stuck to what he thought was going to make him successful. He knew in his mind what success looked like, and it wasn't about the money. It was something else. It was something greater. He stuck to that, and you know what the first thing he did with that money when he got that first check? He went and bought that dog back for $15,000. So think about that for a minute, guys. When you talk about what success looks like, do you have a clear vision of what that looks like? Are you willing to sacrifice for what that looks like? Will you say no until you get the correct response? And I'll tell you something, guys. I said this yesterday, and this resonates. Yes, we'll get you out of Egypt, but no will get you to the promised land. Knowing your mission and knowing what to focus on is a precursor for success. We all sit here in the room and quite frankly, I don't think you guys are thinking big enough. I really don't. Because if success looks like comfort, I want to pay my bills, I want to feed my family, if that's as high as you're reaching, you're going to hit below it. You will always chase it. If success looks like, and look, when we say success, I know the general image in your head probably goes the Jersey Shore guys walking around with gold chains and private jets, and that's not what we're talking about. Somebody mentioned a humble millionaire. That to me is successful. Last week when we were in San Francisco, we hung around Roland Frazier. I've met a couple billionaires in my life. He was the one I met that I looked at that wasn't your common flashy, what you'd expect. This man comes rolling in, not with a, woman half his age and a country from, Brazil or something. He comes in with somebody he met off Match.com after he was extremely wealthy. He was looking for an actual connection. He wasn't looking for what I've seen in other circles of wealthy people. And his whole passion didn't reflect what I've seen in other wealthy people. Success doesn't have to look like an image at all. But what it has to look like to you is a lifestyle that far exceeds what you think you can do, with a clear mission, clear vision, the ability to say no to something that doesn't fit that mission. Beyond that, you have to be willing to sacrifice and implement, and you're going to be in pain doing it. That's the reality. It's not pretty. But if you truly want to go somewhere in your life, start from, maybe some of you guys started from nothing. Maybe it was a rags to where you are story. Maybe that's true because we have a lot of people in here it is. But you don't have to end the way you start. And you don't have to apologize for thinking bigger. If you're truly, truly in this because you're an entrepreneur and you want to run a business and you want to do something with your life that's great, create a legacy, to build some wealth, to push yourself beyond where you think you can go, that's where I'm a huge advocate in real estate. You know why real estate allows for that? There's no glass ceiling. There's nobody that can tell you, stop. You're only going to make so much money and you're going to live this lifestyle because that's what I hired you to do. Instead, what you have is no limits, no boundaries. And you and yourself with your own creativity and your own drive, and that's the other thing you need is drive, and your own vision can take you anywhere you want to go. Yet so few people do it. So few people will actually capitalize. That license that you hold in your hand, that little piece of paper, is your ticket to absolute, endless, unapologetic success. And yet, every quarter we have people fall off in the MLS that don't pay their fees. Every year they don't do their CEs and someone falls off and they try to scramble to get back on. That license is not protected. They make choices that would not protect the license. That license is your gateway. The question is, what do you really, truly want for your life? I'm going to push you to think bigger than just comfort. Comfort is actually an enemy of success. It truly is. The minute it's about comfort, you will make sacrifices in your mind for that comfort. The minute that those sacrifices are made, you're never going to push yourself to reach anything higher. So, how do we wrap this up? How do we walk away from today with a new energy or a new vision? Because what I'm telling you is success is hard. It sucks. Chasing it sucks. It does. But the question you have to ask yourself is it for you? Is it for you? Do you want more? Any feedback? Any thoughts? Anybody hungry? I know I am. Yeah.
You know what, I want more, and I want to be there and available present for my children, and so for me, there's no other option. So I'm gonna make it work, and that's how it is to it.
Good.
When they call me at school and they need something, or they just want to be driven to school. I don't want to say, I've got to go punch in Minneapolis and drive through traffic. I don't want it. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not shortchanging them. And when you talk about all the hard work you put into success, my kids used to be ungrateful when I'd have to pick up the phone or something and they're around. So in order for them to see the benefit, because sometimes you're a client, you don't get paid, but if they work with me and making it easy for me to communicate with my clients and accept that I actually take a phone call, maybe when there's a movie on or we're watching at home or something, what they get at the end of my closing is they each, they're the first ones I pay, they each get $100.
Nice.
Understand that for 3 months you tolerated phone calls here.
You're making them a partner in it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It helped them to understand, oh, she's on the phone, because I could rationalize and say, how many moms can drive you to school at 8 o'clock and pick you up and work? And they don't get that, how nice that is. So I had to kind of show them, here's your portion of the.
That's a brilliant idea because you're making them a partner in your venture with you, which I think is an awesome idea. That's great.
I think that's great too. I'm going to share that with my daughter down in Florida. She has 2 little kids.
If they're causing trouble, like a couple days ago, I was on the phone with a possible client, they came in the door arguing, it was with Homes for Heroes, it was a conference call learning, and they knew. That's when my daughter had to pick my son up, they knew, and they both burst in the door arguing with each other.
Ooh.
They don't get $100 from the next closing.
So the realities of the new world with Zoom technology. Yeah, you can never, when it's live, you can never edit, right? That's the problem.
But
Yeah.
They lose $100 for my next closing because I had it on their calendar.
Right.
And I warned them, so they're in it with me.
But I love that. I think that's a brilliant idea. Anybody else? Takeaways, thoughts, feedback.
You forgot to say Walt Disney. He was fired for not being creative enough.
That's right. You are correct. Yep. Walt Disney was the other one. Yep.
I'm willing to bet behind every multimillionaire, every successful person,
There's a story.
there's the same story.
There is a story. And you know what it entails? Risk, drive, failure, perseverance, and implementation.
And
That's what it,
I met the guy who started Payday America.
Sure.
When I was down in Naples, Florida. And him and his best friend were broke. Both of them had lost their job or however the story went, and they were married and their wives were pretty upset. And because they took their little bit of money, it's like, I don't know, 5,000 or 10,000 a piece, and started Payday America.
yep.
And now they employ 50,000 people with other businesses from that.
Right.
And he was down in Naples at Campiello's celebrating. He had just given the Children's Hospital $50 million.
Nice.
And he was there in flip-flops,
Right.
cargo shorts, and I swear he got the T-shirt from like hand-me-down
Right.
store.
Right.
You know what, Naples, you can be next to someone who seems like they're homeless and they're a millionaire in Naples.
100% agree.
And it's good, the Goodwill, if you go to the Goodwills down there, because that's what we did for my daughter.
Yeah.
They're rich.
There's a lot of rich people down there.
in Goodwill, and they have a different mindset down there, and it's kind of awesome.
It is. But my point is, guys, is the difference between the common person and them is they're willing to tolerate and accept things that most people won't.
Hey, Mike.
And is that
It's Sue. It's Sue. I'm still here. Sue Thompson. I've been listening. I'm here.
okay? You just came out like a ghost of the darkness there. I was not expecting that. Sue, go for it.
I was going to say the one thing I've been learning while you've been speaking is that in order for us to grow and succeed is you've been telling us that we can't live in our comfort zone. So we need to reach out and every day maybe do something a little bit more out of our comfort zone. That's the only way
Correct.
we're going to be successful, because it's really hard and difficult and it's scary and risky. But we all have certain things that we're very comfortable doing every day. But in order to grow and make our businesses stronger, we're going to need to figure out, okay, this is our comfort level. Okay, then reach a little higher than that today. And then every day reach a little bit higher than that the next day. Because, okay, if you door knock 10 doors and you get a no, it might be the 11th or 12th door that's going to give us that yes, and we can't be afraid of that.
And I'll tell you, Sue, that's why we named this class The Ugly Truth of Success. Don't stop 3 feet from gold. Because what you described is exactly accurate. People will stop right before they get the breakthrough. By the way, here's the other thing. People are going to have generally the breakdown right before the breakthrough. And that's going to be the moment that you're tested. When everything seems like it's falling to crap, when everything doesn't seem to work, when you're questioning your very sanity of why you would do this. My other favorite story is, anybody know why WD-40 is called WD-40? Who doesn't know that? Exactly. 39 scrapped attempts. It was the 40th that finally hit. That's why. Thomas Edison claims that he had 10,000 attempts to invent the light bulb. You know what his attitude was? And this is why I bring this story up. Because what he said was, those 99, whatever, 100 other, attempts weren't failures. They were successes. I succeeded not at learning how to invent the light bulb. I succeeded at learning how not to. And that's how you reframe the way you think. Now, how many people can say that? I didn't learn how to convert a lead. I converted how not to. I didn't learn how to close a transaction that was, $1.4 billion, but I did learn how not to. If you can have that attitude in your business, and if you can have that mindset to go along with your heart set, if your heart set says, I want to be successful, I want my life to look like X, Y, and Z, I want to do this because it's my passion. Your mindset has to be to get through all the garbage to get there. And Sue's right. You're never going to do it in your comfort zone. Never. Growth is painful, sometimes violent. Sometimes it hurts that bad. Anybody remember their growing pains when they were a kid? I used to roll around grabbing my calves, rolling around like in tears. That's how growth feels. It doesn't feel good. It'll stretch you to your very limit. But the question is, can you persevere through that? Can you survive the breakdown before the breakthrough? Success suicide. Out of fear. People will tank their own career, derail it so they don't have to experience the success. They're afraid of reaching for it.
I think my fear right now, because my life is in limbo, I have to move forward out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get out of where I'm at.
So
That fear is driving me to actually do more, be uncomfortable. Because I'm already so uncomfortable, why not just put some more on?
and here's what I'll suggest.
Yeah.
But here's what I'll suggest. Don't just wait. And right now you might have to, but on the next round, don't just wait till you have to act. Act before you have to. Act out of proactive, not reactive. Be proactive, not reactive. When you're reactive, you will find a certain measure of success.
In my situation. But yeah,
Understood. Yep.
I agree. I would tell my kids, don't let it happen this way.
Right. The bottom line is, guys, you have to carve out in your mind what success looks like to you and push beyond it. Think bigger. And then implement. It sounds simple. It's not. It sounds almost too simple. Well, I just have to do that stuff and then all of a sudden money will fall from the sky and I'll be successful. I just got to suffer a little bit and get through it. It's not. The mental collapse you'll have within yourself when things go sideways, wondering if you're really in the right spot and really doing the right things, is paralyzing. But you can't give up on the mission. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be successful. There's nothing wrong with wanting to create wealth. There's nothing wrong with wanting your life to be different, to pass something down to your families. There's nothing wrong with any of that. You don't need to apologize to you, me, or anybody else on the planet for that. But the question is, do you believe in yourself enough to actually go for it? That's what it comes down to. Pushing past that self-doubt. That's where we struggle. With that, that's the message. Any feedback before we wrap up?
Thank you.
What's that?
Thank you.
That's Sue again?
Yep.
So great. Thank you, Sue. Thanks for being with us at home. And if you guys have any last comments, this is now the time. Otherwise, we're wrapping up right now.
Yeah, thank you. That was good. That was good to hear.
Good. Perfect. All right.
You need to hear this regularly.